Hi guys, so this video is going to be a little bit different. If you're just here for nail tutorials, please look away now. I've just been through some really awesome life experiences and I wanted to share them with you guys. I know that if one person who's going through the same thing that I went through sees this, it could really help them, so I really just wanted to talk about it a little bit. So a couple months ago, I was an egg donor for my best friends. And I never thought I would ever do anything like that in my life, and I didn't realize how the process would be. I didn't understand what it would feel like, the emotional side, the physical side, all of that. And I learned a lot from it, and I really wish that if somebody is looking to be an egg donor, they know a little bit more of what to prepare for, because I had no idea, even from reading everything online. Nothing really told me what it was going to be like, and I know it's different for everybody, but this is my story. Let me start with what an egg donor is, because some people might not know that. I just thought of that. So when somebody's trying to have a child, some women cannot produce eggs of their own, and if it's a gay couple, they don't have eggs, obviously. So I was doing this for Eric and Adam. They didn't have eggs, but for a traditional relationship, the woman who can't produce eggs usually gets an egg donor, you know, maybe similar to the way that they look or, you know, who they are, so that they get a baby that looks similar to them, and they get the eggs from this other woman instead. For this situation, they decided to use my eggs, and we had a surrogate, and her name is Corinne. She's amazing, and she is pregnant right now. Yeah, if you want to follow the whole thing that's going on, please go to my husband's channel. It's really amazing what's going on, and they're literally filming every part of it, so you can see the ups, the downs, everything that's going on. It's really, really amazing to see this all come to light. But yes, so there's an egg donor who has the eggs, and then they take the sperm from the sperm donors, fertilize it, and then implant it into the surrogate. So that's what an egg donor is. So I think it was back in November, my two best friends, they are a gay couple, and they're looking to have kids, and they asked me to be their egg donor. They said that they were thinking about a couple of people, and I was the top on their list, and I could not believe they asked me. I actually did an interview with them on their channel. They are called the McHusbands. I'll leave a link in the description box below to that video in particular, but please subscribe to them. They are amazing people. They are my best friends, and I am so excited to see them raise children, because they're going to be the greatest parents in the world. My first reaction when they asked me was, why would they want me? I know we're very close, but I feel like I'm not the prime candidate for you know, procreation. I'm quite spastic. I don't know my left to right. I'm a mess all the time. But it was a really great feeling to know that people care about you enough that they think about things like this, you know? You don't really realize how much people care about you and how much you care about people sometimes, and this kind of really brought everything to light for me. So before I get into the process, how everything worked, I think it's really important to touch on the emotional side of things. When I was first asked, I really didn't want to tell anybody about it because I didn't want anybody to affect my decision. And so eventually I started telling people around me, you know, my friends and family, and I got a lot of split reactions, and that's kind of what was really surprising. Was everyone's so excited about surrogacy. They think it's a really great thing. The surrogate is such a wonderful woman for doing such a thing. And then when I tell people about being an egg donor, I get the complete opposite reaction. And still to this day, I've gotten very few positive reactions for being an egg donor, which I think is horrendous, because it is an amazing thing that I did. It was not easy to do it, and I'm helping people. Like, why is it bad to help someone like achieve their dreams? I don't get it. So I didn't get the best reaction from a lot of people, and I don't know if it's because they didn't understand the relationship between me and Eric and Adam, or a lot of women don't feel it's right to give away their eggs. I've heard that reaction. I don't know. It was a bit difficult to take in, but I got a lot of support from my siblings, the rest of my family. So that was the whole emotional side in the beginning. Obviously, hormones make things crazy and you get really emotional later, but I'll touch into that in a second. So the first step was making sure that I was physically fit for this. I have a lot of issues, so I can't believe that it even got to the point where I'm able to do this. The doctor was really amazing because she assured me that in any part of the process, if I felt that I was scared or didn't want to do it anymore, that she could simply just tell them that I wasn't a prime candidate anymore, or something came up and it just wasn't going to work with me. So there's always a way out, which is awesome. So we went to the San Diego Fertility Center, and my doctor was amazing. She was really great. The first thing I did was have a phone conversation with her. We did, my health history. We did a psychiatric test, everything, because they want to make sure that you're psychologically able to handle what the situation is. What if Eric and Adam never talk to me again and my DNA's out there? I have biological children that I can never talk to or see, and most of the situations are like that. Most egg donors don't know their biological kids. But I'm lucky enough to have Eric and Adam, these amazing people who want this to be a very open thing. They want their children to know where they came from, who they are, and, be a part of their life, which is really great. It's easier for me because I never really thought I would have kids. I just never had that maternal instinct, never looked at a baby and been like, oh my God, I want one of those. I kind of look at kids and I'm like, ew, it's drooling everywhere. Why would you want that? So it's a little bit easier for me to deal with this kind of thing because it's not something that I've always dreamed of. That could just be me, or it could be because I've never met a guy that I would ever want to procreate with, to be completely honest. But anyway, so they explained the process to me, which I had no idea, and I'm sure most women have no idea how their body works. I assumed that you have your period once a month, or, however long it comes, and you drop one egg, and then when you're 50, or around that age, you run out of eggs. And that's impossible because you're born with 1 million eggs. So what really happens is your body produces on each ovary combined. Okay, so on both ovaries combined. I thought it was literally one ovary, one side of you does whatever it does every month. It's actually both sides do it each time. And they produce anywhere between 10 and 30 usually of these follicles, right? So these follicles some of them contain eggs. And what happens is you have these 10 to 20, 30, and your body decides which one of those eggs is going to be the best egg during this round of ovulation. And it picks that one egg. The rest of those follicles, the ones that all have, some of them have eggs and everything, they are discarded in your body. You literally get rid of them. They disappear at some point. And then your body ovulates and drops that one egg that it decides is the best. So you're really actually producing anywhere between 10 and 30 eggs every single time you ovulate. So with the egg donor process, it's a little bit different. So you have those 10 to 30, and instead of your body picking one of them, they want your body to pick all of them. So the hormones that you're injecting in yourself pick all of these eggs. So it actually makes those follicles grow bigger and stronger, and all of those eggs end up being prime candidates. So imagine having your period and you drop one egg, and the cramping, the bloating, everything you get from one egg, the egg donors go through that with 10 to 30 eggs. I think it ended up being 22 or something that follicles, but then it was only 14 eggs in the follicles, matured eggs, and then I think it was 14. We ended up with 14 in total that they were able to fertilize. So now that you know how that all works and kind of a good idea of what it is, the process was really intense. And of course I did my research, but nothing would ever prepare me for what I went through. And if you were to ask me if I would ever do it again, I would say no. I would have said yes partway through it, but I would have said no as soon as I had the surgery because that was the worst part. So what happens is you have to inject yourself with hormones, and I mean give yourself shots every day in your stomach area. I had 2 shots every day for the first, I think it was 5 days, and then it turned into 3 shots every day. And then towards the end of it, it was about a 14-day process for me. They pushed it a little bit further because they knew that I could take it, and they thought that I was going to produce more eggs, which I ended up doing. So it was worth it. But it's usually about a 10 to 12 day process, and mine was a little bit more. So, and then towards the end, you have different medications, shots that you're taking, things like that. So, when they showed me the shots, everyone kept saying, oh, they're so tiny. It's just these little, things that you prick inside of yourself, and it's no problem. Like, you'll get used to it after the second time, and then it'll be like butter. Yeah, that's not what it was like for me. I'm sure it was for some people, but, so some of the needles I had were a 1/4 inch, and then some of them, and they were very thin, and then some of them were a little bit bigger, and they were thicker too. So when they first gave me the medication, it was so funny because Adam was driving me back and forth to San Diego for this process, and, he saw me like have a freak out because they wrote the information on, like the medication and how much I had to give myself, and you have to like mix these powders with the, water or whatever it is to make the medicine before you inject it in yourself. It has to be like all fresh and stuff. And, they gave me the amount of cc's that I was going to do for the first night, and I freaked out because it looked like a lot. It was more than everything that I've researched, and I was like, okay, whatever, maybe I should do a little bit less, but that's fine. Like, I'll do what I need to do. Then we get in the car, and prior to this process, first off, you have to get intravaginal ultrasounds every day, every other day. I don't know what it was. A couple times we had to do that before the process. During the process, you have to do it almost every other day. So we did it, every other day. And then you have to get a bunch of blood work to make sure that like levels of everything work out, and so they can see how much medication you need. So we get in the car, and I get a phone call from the nurse saying, hey, just kidding, we have to nearly like double the cc's that we told you, which was already a lot. And I was like, oh. Like, that's when I was having a freak out in the car. Like, he knew I was like not okay. I was like having the cold sweats. I was like, oh my God, I don't think I can do this. Like, it was just not comforting because I have very strange reactions to any sort of medication. Like, I can't take NyQuil or children's Robitussin. Like, Sudafed bothers me. Like, everything literally bothers me except Advil. And so I didn't know what this medication was going to do to me. That was the scariest thing, is I didn't care so much about the needles. I cared more about, I don't know what this medication is going to do to me and what I'm going to feel like. What if it's in me and like I have a horrible allergic reaction and I can't get it out? Like, what do I do, So the next day comes, and that's when I'm supposed to do the first injections. And I mean, it was hysterical when I look back at it because Eric and Adam were both there. They were with me the entire time. They stayed with me afterwards to make sure I was okay. And it took me about 30 minutes just to mix and pull the right cc's from the medication. You have to be very careful not to get bubbles and all this stuff. So I was just really paranoid. I didn't want to do anything wrong. So it took me quite a while to prepare everything. Once I got it all prepared, I'm literally squeezing my stomach fat and just holding it for, I can't even tell you how long it was. And they were literally just staring at me like, how do we support her? Like, what do we do? We don't want to give it to her. Like, how is she going to stab herself right now, right? So the first night was the 2 medications. One was called Menopur, and then the second one was called, oh my God, I can't remember what the second one was called. So the first time I stabbed myself, it's like it got caught in the first layer of skin, but it didn't go in all the way. So the needle was still like very much outside of the skin, but the point of it was in my skin. And I felt like there was a barrier and I couldn't like push it through. So I took it out and I did it again. And the same thing happened. I took it out and I did it again. Like 5 times. And I have these like, and I never pushed the medication in because the needle has to be in all the way. So I have all these little blood spots all over me. And I like, the look on their faces was like, oh. I'm just like trying so hard. And then I got enough momentum to really, push it in. And once I felt the needle go in, I was like, okay, it actually doesn't hurt that bad. And then I pushed the medication in. And the Menopur was the only medication, one of the only medications, that really hurt when you pushed the pump in. You felt the stream of, like, medicine, of liquid going into you, and it burned so bad. And then I felt the burn, like, spread apart and just go, like, all around my abdomen. It was just, like, the most unsettling feeling. But after I did that one, I was fully prepared for the next one to feel the same way. But actually the second one that I was doing every night didn't hurt at all when you pumped the medicine in. So the first one was horrible, and the second one was a piece of cake for me. So I would always do the worst one first, and then the not so bad one second. So I eventually got the hang of stabbing myself properly so that I didn't have as many little blood spots. But I was freaking out thinking that the medication was going to make me feel weird. I wasn't sure. So Eric and Adam stayed with me for so long. We were playing video games. They were trying to distract me from the feeling of everything. And I was honestly pretty okay the first night, except for the anxiety that I had from it. So I think it was the third night was when I started the side effects. And as soon as I gave myself the first shot, or the second shot, I remember sitting on my couch, and I was having one of the worst headaches I've ever had. And I don't get headaches, like, ever. Like, my head never hurts unless I, like, hit it or something. But it just felt like so much pressure, and it was so heavy in my head, and I was like, oh my god, I need to go to bed. So that was the first thing that I dealt with, which wasn't that terrible in the long scheme of things. But that was when I did start getting some side effects. It was about the third day. The other thing to note is that you are stabbing yourself in your stomach, in your abdomen, into bruises, because all of these shots that you give yourself turn into bruises, and it starts to get really painful. You can't, like, crunch over too much, and it looks really gross. You know, my whole belly was just, like, green and blue and purple, and you're stabbing yourself into really sensitive skin at that point. So you're trying to pick which is the best spot to do it in, and that was one of the most difficult things too, is just because it's uncomfortable more than anything. It's not, like, horribly painful. It's just, like, uncomfortable, you know? So then I started to get really bloated. I would feel, like, really random spurts of pain once in a while, but nothing, like, too debilitating, anything like that. You know, you just start to not feel so good. You're a little fatigued. You're getting emotional. By, like, the 5th and 6th day, I would cry every time somebody was nice to me. Like, it was just a roller coaster of emotions. And then I was introduced to my third shot. I can't remember what day. I think it was the 5th day I started the third shot. And so I would do that one in the morning, and then the other two that I was doing every day at night. And it had to be spaced out this, you know, amount of time. Everything had to be timed properly. You do get used to it, but when I tell you, like, every single time I have this needle in my hand and I'm staring at my stomach, I'm like, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And if somebody was, like, there saying, like, you have to do it now, like, time to go right now, then I was able to do it. But without the pressure of, like, having to get it done, you work yourself up and you're like, oh my god, I can't do this, I have to stab myself with this needle, like, what am I doing to myself, like, all these things. And there was a lot of times where, you know, I was FaceTiming Eric and Adam if they couldn't be here, or I couldn't be with them, and I think they could tell that I was just getting a little frustrated with the situation, because I was doubting myself a lot, because I didn't think I could do it anymore. Every time you stare at that needle and you're just like, I don't want to do this, like, why am I stabbing myself, you know? But then you just get over it, you know, realize that you're doing it for a really great cause, and it's okay. And so then it gets to the point where you can't button your pants, and you're so bloated, you literally, like, I literally looked like I was 5-6 months pregnant. Like, I couldn't button my pants for the life of me. And I was going to work at this point with really baggy sweatshirts. Nobody knew that I was doing this at work. And I was going with really baggy sweatshirts. I just felt like I looked like a mess. I didn't care what I looked like. And I was trying to cover the fact that all of my pants were on, but I could not button them for the life of me. I couldn't fit it. But I wasn't about to go buy maternity pants, you know, like, I ain't got time for that, or money. So I literally walked around for at least 2.5-3 weeks with my pants unbuttoned. So again, it just gets to the point where it got to the point where I can't say because I don't know how somebody else's situation would be. discomfort would be the best word to describe everything. Everything you're doing is uncomfortable. You feel like you are a bowling ball, which I'm assuming is what you feel like when you're pregnant. And you can't move certain ways. You get random spurts of pain. You just get nauseous randomly. And it was just really, really uncomfortable. And then it got to the point where it was a couple of days before the end of it, or actually we thought it was the end of it. And then we, we're going back and forth through all these intravaginal ultrasounds every other day and the blood tests every other day to make sure that, the medication's still working, if they have to change the dosage, all of that stuff. So we're driving, literally, I'm in LA, we're driving down to San Diego almost every other day. And then at some point it was like every day, just to make sure the blood work and everything was where it should be and they could check up there. And it was cool to see the progress of the ultrasounds. I could literally see the follicles growing and how many I had on each side and each ovary. It was really, really cool. But it was also really uncomfortable to have that shoved up inside of you when you're that big and bloated and uncomfortable. So that wasn't the funnest part. And then came the day that they told me I was going to be done the next day. And I was super excited. And then I get a call from, actually I think it was an email saying, hey, do you want to push it another day? So the situation was both of Eric and Adam were going to be sperm donors. So that means if I give out 10 eggs, they have to split that. And there's a very small percentage or very small chance that all of those are going to be fertilized. And if it was just one person, 10 of them for one person would be great, ratio, chance, whatever you call it, for it to get, enough to get fertilized that you can actually, put this into the surrogate. But because we were splitting them, they wanted them to have, an equal chance, and they wanted both of them to have a good enough chance for this to be happening. So they pushed me a little bit further, and I think it was 2 or 3 days more. I think it was we thought it would be like a Tuesday kind of thing, and then it ended up being a Friday thing. Or a Saturday. I think it was a Friday thing. Or it was going to be Friday again, then they thought I was going to be done again, and then they pushed it one more day. It just got to the point where I was just frustrated. I was like, get the shit out of me, I don't want to do this anymore. But I was trying to play it cool, but it was just, they could tell I was kind of over it at that point. So a couple of days before the surgery, or I think it's exactly 36 hours or something, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's 36 hours. On the dot of the hour, you have to give yourself the trigger shot. And the trigger shot is a little bit bigger of a needle, and it's a little bit more medication. And, but that one, the medication didn't hurt going in, but, it did hurt coming out. It was almost like I got a bee sting. And it was just burning and itching. I had to put ice on it. Oh, that was actually the third medication that I was taking every day, too. That one felt like a bee sting, too. But this one was really bad. And then I had maybe an hour after I did the trigger shot, I thought I was going to die for I don't know, a couple of minutes. And then I was okay. And what the trigger shot does, it actually triggers you to ovulate. So as soon as you do that shot, 36 hours from there is when you ovulate. So that's why they time it out with surgery, is 36 hours exactly afterwards, so they can extract all the eggs right before you ovulate them naturally, from the medication pushing it out. If I were to ovulate 30 eggs, if something were to mess up and I wasn't able to get the surgery, I literally think you would die, because I don't know how you would be able to handle ovulating 22 follicles or however many, So I'm just so glad that everything worked out timing-wise. And then came the day for the surgery, and I'm like, yay, it's gonna be over, so excited. So I was actually really happy going into the surgery. And what they do is they go with an intravaginal ultrasound with a needle on it, and they go up and they poke through your vaginal wall and go directly into your ovary, I believe it is. I don't think they even go in your uterus. I can't remember exactly what it was. It might have been the uterus. It's either the uterus or the vaginal wall. They go straight through it directly to your ovary, suck out all the eggs. So it's just these two little pinpoints, going through to suck them out. And I was like, oh, that's, you know, gonna be nothing compared to everything that I've been doing. It'll be fine. And if you asked me if I would have done that again right before the surgery, I would be like, yeah, sure, no problem. Like, this was not that terrible. Like, it was really uncomfortable, but nothing like I wouldn't be able to do again physically. And then, so the morning of the surgery, you know, they prep you for everything. Eric and Adam were with me the whole time, like holding my hand basically. And step one is get an intravenous line in you, right? Because when you go to the doctor, you're going under, you have to be put down with anesthesia for this one because you have to be knocked out for it. You need an IV in you. Sounds easy, right? While I loved the facility that I was in, and the nurse was super sweet, she picked the very wrongest vein in my body to do this for. So I have very easy veins on the inside of my arms, and she decided to pick the wrist here. So she tried to put the anesthesia IV thing in here on me, in my vein over there. I can't see my vein there. Why she picked that, I don't fucking know. And she sticks this needle in me. I'm not even joking. This needle was like this big. She sticks this needle in me. If I have pictures of it, which I probably do somewhere, I'll put them in right here. But if I don't, sorry. She puts the needle here, okay, and I feel it here, and she's just wiggling it around at this point. Wiggling it around for what felt like a lifetime. And I'm looking at Eric and Adam, and I'm like, I'm going to puke. I'm going to vomit. Like, this is not, I'm going to pass out. Something is not okay right now. I felt everything come over my body to the point where, you know, you're just like, you're going to pass out. And I've thrown up before in situations like this, so I knew, like, I was not going to be okay. She's just fishing around in here. It was not okay. And I got to the point where I was like, nope, no more. Like, I don't even think I saw it, but the actual anesthesiologist had walked into the room, saw what was happening, and immediately took it out. Was like, hold on, let me do this, and he took it out. And I was like, thank gosh, because he must have seen in my face that I was literally about to pass out. Like, I could feel my lips turning blue. I was like, nope. And so he ended up putting it in the part that any, you know, buddy should when they see that vein there, and I was fine after that. I was totally fine. But recovering from the surgery, that situation was really crappy because I had a bruise. You could see the mark where the needle went in here. The bruise, I'm not even joking. If I have pictures, I will put it in, started here and then expanded on my entire arm. It was like 5-6 inches of bruising over my entire arm. And it was like, what? Like, if you can't get it in, just don't do it. You know, like, take it out and then try again or something. Like, she was literally wiggling it around for so long. It was not okay. Anyway, so then I say goodbye to Eric and Adam. They wheel me into the room. They explain what's going to happen. And, of course, the anesthesiologist pretends he wants to get to know you, but he's really just asking you questions until you pass out. And then I wake up from the surgery. And funny story is when you're going through all these medications prior to the surgery, you get, one of the main things that they warn me about is that you get really constipated. So this is too much information for anybody, look away right now. This is real stuff though. And because the medication that they give you has to stop fluids from going places, I don't know, it like dries you up everywhere, and it prevents you from ovulating those 30 eggs at one time, so it does a lot to your body, and one of the main things was constipation. So I was like, I'm vegan, I'm not gonna have a problem, I'll be fine. And I was actually fine until the day of the surgery. It was the first day that I wasn't able to go to the bathroom. And when I woke up from the surgery, the nurse, and I was so loopy that I thought that it was a dream that she said it. And it was funny because afterwards I was like, did you really say that to me? She was like, yeah. But she told me that when I was on the table getting this done, they thought I was gonna poop on the table. They said I was like prairie dogging, and she said the doctor went to go scoop it out or something, and then she couldn't, so it just like went back up or whatever. I don't know. I thought it was hilarious. Of course, only me. That would only happen to me on the table. And it was funny because they were like, "Yeah, that's never happened before." And I was like, "Oh, really? Only me?" But yeah, so that is what happened to me. Funny story. But so then, you're on the bed waiting to recover, trying to get out of there, and I was just kind of happy it was over with. And but when I did wake up, I was in quite a bit of pain. I felt really bad cramping in my ovaries, and I was still really bloated, and then I had a really bad pain in my vagina, from, whatever went up in there. Didn't feel like it came out smoothly. I don't know. It just felt like it was really painful. It was like stinging, burning kind of feeling. Just like really painful. And they asked me my pain level. I said 7 or 8, and they gave me, some pain medications. And like 30 minutes later, they asked me again, and they told me I should have been in no pain with the amount of pain medication they gave me. And I was like, I'm still in pain. But it was at like a 6, or a 5. And so they gave me more. And I was quite loopy at that point. All I wanted to do was eat. I was so hungry. I literally, because I'm vegan, I eat like every 20, 30 minutes because I'm just hungry all the time. So I always snack on something, And I had warned Eric and Adam, I was like, when I get out of there, if you don't have food for me, I'm going to hate you. And they always had food for me, like waiting for like every moment. It was awesome. But the nurse gave me like some cereal. I think it was like Cheerios. I don't know what it was. I don't think it was Cheerios. It was Frosted Flakes. Frosted Flakes are vegan. And I was eating Frosted Flakes. It was funny. And pretzels. She was like, oh, honey, don't eat them yet. Just like suck on them. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I was stuffing my face with them. They were like, you're going to puke. And I'm like, no, I'm going to puke if I don't eat. So I was just stuffing my face, waiting for Eric and Adam to come back, because they were not allowed to come in yet. And then when they came down, I was so happy to see them. I was like, oh my God, my best friends. Like, I was a little bit loopy. I wasn't able to text them properly or anything. It was funny, but then they were ready to, put me in my clothes again and get me out of the place. I sat for like, I don't know, it was an hour or 2 hours just to recover a little bit. And then they put me in a wheelchair, and they wheel me out to the front. And I looked at the nurse, and I go, I think I just urinated. And she looked at me, and she was like, are you sure? And I was like, pretty sure I either just peed myself or something happened. And she wheels me to the bathroom, and Eric and Adam are just, like, waiting by the car, like, literally next to me in the wheelchair, but, like, we were, like, half outside, half inside, and they're just waiting by the door. And I sat down in the bathroom, pulled down my pants, and there was blood everywhere. And this was not that crazy to me because every time I get my period, I hemorrhage, and it's like just a lot of blood all the time. So in my head, I was like, oh, it's a normal period for me, even though you're not supposed to be getting a period right now. But it didn't freak me out that much, but it freaked the nurse out. And she immediately brushed me back into the, surgical room, surgery department, wherever it was. And I felt so bad because Eric and Adam literally just saw me get pushed into the bathroom and then pushed so fast back into there, and they had no idea what was going on. So I felt really terrible. I was like, can you tell them I'm okay? Like, I feel fine. I'm like, just tell them I'm okay. But they wanted to make sure I was okay before they did all that, whatever. So they get the doctor back. They had to prop me up and open me, spread the legs, do everything, that they were doing before, and go back in there and make sure everything was okay. And I was fine. It was just, the wounds from going in there didn't really close up. They were tiny little holes, but they didn't close up the way that they needed to or something, and it was just a lot of excess blood that came out. But, maybe it was 30 minutes later, then they were like, you're fine, it's okay, just stay here, make sure you're not still hemorrhaging, and you'll be fine. And I literally felt fine. I was like, this is normal, I've done this before, whatever. But then I got to the point where I could leave, and I was like, perfect, I could leave. And I thought I was out of the woods because they kept saying oh, some people, they come out of the surgery and they're fine after a day. And I was like, oh, cool, I'm gonna be fine. And when you're in surgery, they put a lot of IV fluids in you to make sure, you stay hydrated, and, you're just in surgery, they give you a ton of IV fluids. So on the way back up from San Diego, I felt terrible, but I had to make them stop every 30 minutes to urinate. I had to pee every 30 minutes. And not just on the way up, for the next 24 hours. Do you know what that does to your bladder? Do you know what that does to your urinary tract? Peeing every 30 minutes with the amount of pressure that is on your body is so painful. Not only is it annoying because all you want to do is sleep, you're waking up every 30 minutes. But the pressure that's going through you was just insane. And it started burning. I thought I had a urinary tract infection because it was just so painful. I was so scared to pee every time I had to pee, but I had to pee so often. And you're super bloated. I still couldn't go to the bathroom. I couldn't, do number 2. And I just felt like shit. Like, I didn't want to eat anything because I wasn't sure if it was going to come out of me. I don't know. I was just like, oh my God, this isn't good. And Eric and Adam were super sweet, and they let me stay with them. Actually, well, they made me stay with them. They took care of me for, days on days on days. And when I tell you, like, I looked even more pregnant than I did before the surgery because I was so pumped up with fluids. I hadn't gone to the bathroom. I was peeing so often. I literally looked like I was 9 months pregnant, like about to pop. In my eyes. I don't know what anybody else saw, but I felt huge. I was really uncomfortable. I thought that my stomach was distended to the point where it was possibly not okay. But the doctors called me the day of the surgery and the day after to make sure I was okay. And I was telling them what was going on. They were like, it's normal. You'll be fine. And I was like, okay, cool. And I felt like I really did. It was more than uncomfortable. It was painful. And the pain meds that they give you codeine and stuff. And like, I didn't want to take codeine because I know it backs you up even more. Like, it's not going to be good to give myself all this medication when you're already like, your body isn't normal. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to fuck it up more. So, I was just taking like Tylenol, the extra strength Tylenol that they were giving me. Also during the whole process, like while you're giving yourself the medication, you're not allowed to take Advil. So if you're in pain, you have to deal with the pain because you can't take Advil during the shots and the whole process, the 2 weeks prior to the surgery. I was drinking a ton of water. They even gave me like, pills to try to make me go to the bathroom, but nothing really helped too much. And then I think it was like the 2nd or 3rd day, I stopped peeing to the point where it was hurting me so much, but I was still peeing a lot. And then I was finally able to go to the bathroom, and I was feeling a little bit better, and I thought I was like out of the woods, getting to the point where things were going to be okay again. And they were okay. I was generally okay, and still couldn't button my pants for the life of me. It was about a week after the surgery that I was able to put pants on that they could button and stuff. Actually, it might have been a little longer than a week. So that was that. And then I think it was like 7 days after the surgery. And I called the fertility center and I was like, hey, I am still peeing an awful lot of fluids every day. Like, I'm waking up several times in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and it just hurt every time I was peeing. And I was like, is that normal? And they were like, no, you need to go to your doctor. You probably have a UTI. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like, I had so many things shoved up my vagina. I'm sure I have a UTI from something that was going on in there, And so then I went to the doctor. She was not my regular doctor. She was the nurse there. And she kind of like rolled her eyes at me and was like, yeah, obviously you have a UTI. Like, I don't even know why they sent you in here. And just gave me the medication and told me to go home. And then I went and had, I peed in the cup so they could test it. Well, I'm taking antibiotics, and day after day, I'm not feeling any better. I'm still peeing a massive amount. I'm in pain. I'm really uncomfortable with just that situation. The bloating went down, though, so I was, comfortable in that aspect. And nothing was changing. And I called them. It was, 5 days later. And I was like, what are the results? And they were like, what are you talking about? And I was like, do I have a urinary tract infection? I'm taking these antibiotics and I haven't gotten any news from you guys. And she was like, oh, you don't have one. And that was it. And I was like, lady, I went in there because I was really uncomfortable and I'm still really uncomfortable. Something else is wrong. And they were like, oh, you should probably go to the doctors that did this. And I was like, okay, clearly you're not going to help me. So then what I did, because San Diego was very far, I went to my gynecologist, and it was a couple days later because I was like, oh, maybe I'll feel better, whatever. And the pain started getting, less and less, so it wasn't horrible, but I was still urinating quite a bit, and I was just like, something's wrong, something was wrong. So I went to my gynecologist, and she does whatever she needs to do, and it turns out that I had internal bleeding from everything that went on, and it could have been from it could have been from the surgery or the procedure, or it could have been from me putting too much stress on my body afterwards and tearing whatever it was. And that kind of oddly was very satisfying to hear, because I thought that I was going to have urinary problems for the rest of my life because they told me I didn't have a urinary tract infection. But it was healing because I wasn't in as much pain, and she said, I don't want to do anything to you. I want it to heal naturally, and if it gets worse, then we'll deal with it then. And that was the complete right thing to do, because I gradually got better and better, but I wasn't able to do anything strenuous for at least 4 weeks after that. So that was like 5 or 6 weeks. So that would be like 5 or 6 weeks after the surgery, so that I wouldn't stress anything else out and have more internal bleeding. But that was why I was peeing so much. I was literally peeing, like, there was blood in my urine, like, and nobody thought to, like, look at that. So that was not fun. And that was the point where I was like, I would never do this again, just because I always know me and how things go wrong with me, and I just don't want to get to the point where I can't get back to normal. And I felt like it took so long for me to feel normal again. Like, hormone-wise, I feel like things were out of me like a week after everything, but it just wasn't something that I would do again. I'm very happy that I did it. I am so glad for the people that I did it for, and I'm happy that that is who chose me and I chose them. It just was so perfect. But I don't think I would do it again. So I'm not going to get into what's going on now with the surrogacy and everything, but things are going very well. And if you are interested, again, please look at the McHusbands YouTube channel. They have wonderful videos of everything that's going on. You can hear the baby's heartbeats, and it's just really amazing and crazy to see. It's funny because I still don't want kids of my own, but I do feel like I feel like I have a bigger purpose now. Like, I feel like I was made to bring this into somebody else's life. I don't know. It gives you this satisfaction that I don't think I was ever going to be able to get from anything else. So I'm really glad that I did this. I really am. And I love Eric and Adam so much, and I'm so glad that we have the relationship that we have. I'm like going to start crying. But if you ever do want to be an egg donor, chances are you're not going to know the people that you're doing it for. And I couldn't have been more lucky to have been involved in this situation and be a part of everything. I don't think I would be able to do it for somebody I wouldn't know the kid or anything like that, you know? So it's just kind of the perfect situation. And they're really amazing people. And what's hard is that people really don't get, like, how much we all care about each other.